Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is economic evaluation of foreign exchange and intangible cost and benefit. In this session, basically we are going to be, we are going to discuss two aspects. First is the evaluation or variation of the projects which involve the foreign market, or basically which involve the import and export activity, and basically the transaction is done in the the foreign exchange value, and especially the foreign exchange market is fully regulated market, and the prices paid or prices received are not actually the true value of the goods or services which are import or which are export. So actually in this project output, for their valuation we need to give special consideration in terms of valuation of the goods and services of import and export, in terms of the willingness to pay for the for getting the extra additional amount of the foreign exchange to have the transaction in the foreign market. And the second aspect is basically the valuation of the intangible cost and benefit, because some of the projects, they have the impact outside of the targeted project area. They have the net impact on the society's welfare, societies in the output from the project output, and actually they have some positive or negative impact on the society or national economy, we can say, due to the project activity. And these are the basically indirect cost and benefit which are not considered in the the financial analysis of the project, but they have the impact on the society. So basically we will be discussing how to value this intangible cost and benefits which are not accounted in the financial analysis, but they need to be accounted for the economic valuation. So let us start with the discussion how to value the project output and input when the project have the involvement of the import and export activity. And the many agricultural projects, their input and output, they deal with the international market for inputs and output, and basically they are involved in the import and export activities as part of the project activity. And we need to consider the foreign exchange. Actually we need to have the foreign exchange to deal with the international prices. So proper considerations should be given on the international prices. And actually the foreign exchange market is fully regulated in terms of their availability of the foreign currency, because there is a limitation is there on the purchasing of the foreign currency. And the conversion rate between the domestic currency and foreign currency is also fully regulated, and government have proper monitoring. If there is some changes in the international price realization, they take the decisions, they take some correction measures. So they are fully regulated. And basically the foreign exchange market is not a perfect market. They are basically some restrictions are there on buying or selling activities. So that's why it is not a perfect market. So in that condition, basically where the market prices in terms of foreign currency which not reflect their true value or economic value, or we can say the willingness to pay the price for foreign currency. So how to estimate the value of the foreign currency, this is the question actually. So we will be discussing. And then another aspect we have to discuss in the project, some of the projects which have the indirect cost and benefits and which are beyond the defined outcome of the project, and basically they affect the societies or people outside the project area. And basically these effects which are outside the society or project area, very difficult to measure in economic value, and that is called as basically intangible cost if there is a negative effect, or we call it as the intangible benefits if the positive benefits or positive effects are there. And basically, so question here is how to account the intangible cost and benefit in economic analysis of the project. So these are the two aspects we are going to discuss. And first start how to estimate the value of the foreign currency for economic evaluation. So here principle is estimating the value of foreign currency is basically to determine the willingness to pay in terms of rupee for an extra foreign currency if made available. So actually here the criteria is that if you a project want to purchase one extra unit of foreign currency, how much amount of rupees the project want to pay, and the project have willingness to pay. So that is the important principle here. And as a first approximation, we may again consider the market price as a measure of willingness to pay for the foreign currency, and the market price of the foreign currency is basically the official rate of the exchange between the foreign currency and the rupees, basically the domestic currency. And if the foreign market is perfectly competitive, if the market is, there is no restriction from the government or from other organization, the foreign exchange market is perfectly competitive, the domestic willingness to pay is presumably accurately reflected by the domestic currency equivalent to at the official rate. So if the market is in the foreign exchange market is perfectly competent, the official exchange rate we can say that is basically the willingness to pay, the domestic willingness to pay, and we can consider it as basically economic price. But here we can define the perfectly competitive foreign exchange market as the if the foreign currencies can be bought and sold without limit at official exchange rate. So if there is no restriction on the official exchange rate, whatever amount of foreign currency we want to bought and sold that is possible, then we can say the foreign exchange market is the perfect market. But that is not the condition in general, and basically the foreign exchange market are basically regulated by the government, and the official market rate understates basically the domestic WTP willingness to pay foreign currency, and it becomes necessary to estimate the true economic value by other means which are basically expressed in rupees of a unit of foreign currency. So actually we want to estimate the exact willingness to pay and for the foreign currency, and that is our exercise we can say. And this exercise is basically is important for social benefit cost analysis also. And to understand this, let us suppose that basically to calculate the shadow prices of foreign exchange, actually we need to calculate, because in the official exchange it is not a correct or true value. So actually we need to correct in the estimate, or we need to calculate the shadow prices of the foreign exchange. And to understand this exercise, let us suppose the foreign exchange is used to import the various commodity at CIF cost including freight prices per unit as it become available at the margin. Margin means if we are we suppose we are importing a commodity, and that import is available in the importing country port, our port, and where the prices is basically fixed at that port prices. So the exporter, they have to supply the commodity or good at the importer port. So that is basically the CI prices, and let FI is the fraction of foreign exchange, and basically this fraction is allocated to the ith of the n commodities. There are n number of the commodities basically, and which are available, which we are importing at the margin at our port, and that ith quantity of the n commodity basically we are allocating, and for that purpose the FI the amount of the foreign exchange is allocated that is allocated for that import, and let PI represent the domestic market clearance prices. So, it is basically we can say the domestic prices, and that is the price reflecting the marginal willingness to pay for the ith import. So, actually this we are importing the ith the quantity of the the commodity. So, for that this is the basically marginal willingness to pay, that is the PI. And then finally, we have the CI that represent the CI price on rupees, which are calculated at the official rate of exchange. So, it is basically in the we can say the price in terms of rupees, which are calculated at the official rate of exchange, and then FI divided by CI basically represents the quantity of the ith import. So, if actually if we the total foreign exchange which the volume or the amount of foreign import is divided by the CI prices, then we get the quantity of the ith import, and basically that is purchased if an extra rupees of the foreign exchange become available in the country. And now the quantity of the good 1 to n, there are different goods, and so basically so here we can calculate the quantity like that F1 divided by C1, then like Fi divided by Ci, then Fn divided by Cn. So it basically have the aggregation in terms of the P1, then Pi and Pn, different in the commodities. So total aggregate consumption actually value of the imported goods. Therefore, so here if you want to calculate the total the import value, so that we can calculate by the P1, that is basically domestic price and the clearance prices, which we multiply with the F1 C1, and then so in this manner we when we calculate for all the, when we sum up all the and the consumption of different commodities or all the import of the different commodity, then the formula is P1 multiplied by F1 divided by C1 plus the different commodity. So it will become a total aggregate import value, and here with F1 plus Fi plus Fn. So the total fraction should become a unity, and this expression basically defines the shadow price of the foreign exchange that can be denoted as the SP. So shadow price of basically we can calculate like it is basically summation of all the I equal to 1 to 1. So summation of all the commodity which we are importing, as the Fi multiplied by ratio, that is the Pi divided by Ci, and we can say that the shadow price of the foreign exchange is a weighted average of the ratio of the market clearance price to the official Ci prices. So basically it is the total basically total of the weighted average ratio of the domestic clearing price to the Ci prices, and weight basically reflecting the content of import bill at the margin, that is basically our port. And there are some assumption in this calculation of the shadow prices of the foreign exchange, like the shadow prices of foreign exchange is basically based on the actual and projected trade policy, not on the optimum policy. So basically allocation of foreign exchange at the margin among various demand is given, and is basically a given parameters of the project decisions rather than a choice variable, and trade policy are the outcome of bargaining process among various interest group between the foreign and domestic, and basically inside the government and outside the government. This assumption will reflect what is actually to be happen, not that what ought to happen. So it is basically depend on the actual policies. And then another assumption is that the increment to supplies measured by the ratios, that is the Pi divided by P1 and Fn divided by Fn that are not additive, and this means that no reverse import substitution take place. So if we are importing something, so we are only importing, we are not exporting. So there is no reverse import substitution, and import at margin, that is our port, is in general represent net addition to the supply of the commodity in question. And the allocation factor, that is basically F1 to Fn, is limited to the consumer goods and intermediate goods used for the production of the consumer goods, and it is advisable to eliminate rations to good from the calculations, and that is weight, that is F1 to Fn on remaining goods must then be adjusted so that they add up to the unity. And now we will move to the valuation of the intangible benefits and cost. And there is some direct benefit that a project may yield are those which are reflected by the immediate willingness to pay. So here we can measure easily. But the project which are sometimes they are often yield a net gain to the society that is not fully captured by the project output, and in such cases the additional benefit ought to be ideally added to overall contribution of the projects. There are some additional benefits which are given by the projects which are not calculated in the project, but that impact or additional impact on the society should be which are given by this project should be calculated for the economic valuation or from the society point of view. And basically such type of situation it is occur when an ancillary goods and service produced in connection with the projects, like the contributes to the satisfaction of the consumer other than those who receive the project output. So there are various projects where there are satisfaction to the consumer which are other than the project output, the actual project output which are targeted. For example, the road construction for a project work also provide benefit to the benefit of communication to the entire area where the project is being implemented, and this represent the basically externalities that result in the lower production cost for other producers owing to their ability to use a project by product free of charge. So if a road have been constructed on the area as a part of the project activity, but that road is being used by other persons who are not targeted by the project, and that reduce the cost of the other producers. So they are getting net benefit out of the project. So such type of benefits should be calculated in the society point of view when we evaluate the project input and output. And other example of similar indirect benefits are the training of labor force in the project, and new skills acquired by the worker contribute to the output of the project. And if the worker eventually move out on the other jobs and he left the job of the project, and they bring with them the opportunity for greater production, and then they could have without their acquired skills. So if the persons who are working in the the project work and they get some skills due by conducting the training on them, and if they left the job from that project and they go for other job, so they will produce more results, they they will contribute more because they have got some training on the previous project, and that contribute in their production capacity, and these skills then basically result in contribution to the aggregated consumption or aggregated output made by possible the project, but not accounted other work. So such type of things we should calculate it. The question is here is whether such evaluation of the indirect benefit or intangible benefit is always worth doing, and the probability of error are there in estimating in such indirect effect or intangible benefit. And there are various difficulty in their estimation, and there is a high chances of error in the estimation in such benefits, such indirect benefits which are called as intangible benefit, and actually the amount is also likely to be very low compared to the direct benefit. So when we compare the direct benefit or indirect benefit, the amount of indirect benefits is quite low when we compare with the direct benefit, and direct benefits are basically they measure precisely. Therefore the these intangible benefits are not included in most of the project analysis, especially related to the agriculture sector. And for the valuation of the intangible cost, the basic principle in evaluating the cost with respect to any objective is that the costs are simply equivalent to maximum benefit foregone, and that is basically opportunity cost. And actually when we wish to assess the external effect that result in net loss to the society, that is basically in the cost, indirect cost we can say, like the pollution of air or water by industrial plants, then the polluting discharge is a byproduct of the industrial process, and which result in net disbenefit to surrounding population. So these are basically we can say the indirect cost, intangible cost, and in general the people affected are not generally compensated for their discomfort by those responsible for the such effect, such cost. And in such cases there is a consumption cost to the society that ought to be included in the assessment of the project, because the society is losing something, so some cost is there, so that cost should be included in the assessment of project. And at present actually we whatever the knowledge we have, it with that knowledge it appeared impossible to improve decisively that one project is inferior to the another in terms of its contribution to the indirect disbenefit. So therefore these are also known as the intangible cost. And basically to conclude that the practically it is impossible to quantify many externalities. It is one of the limitation of the social cost and benefit analysis, and the external effect is important even though we are not able to quantify them. And basically it may include the qualitative description of such project, while valuing that. Actually if you are not able to quantify them, we can include the qualitative description about such externalities, and basically that help in making choice of the project, and such broad description may facilitate decision into proper perspective. And now we can sum up this session that the many projects have import and export component which require proper consideration for foreign exchange value, for economic valuation, and for that basically we calculate the shadow prices of the foreign exchange, and which is weighted average of the ratio of the market clearing to the official CIF prices, dated costs including the freight prices, and then weight reflects the content of the import bill. And the project which have indirect cost and benefits on the society outside the defined project area, basically it is difficult to count these indirect effects which are called as the intangible cost and benefit, and in such situation we can include the qualitative information that will help in proper decision making. Thank you very much.